Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and today I want to talk about A Touch of Zen. I also want to apologize. I haven't been posting in a while, and it's because I've been quite sick, so I'm feeling a little better today, and I will try to do this as smoothly as possible. But I might be a little bit fuzzy, so if I repeat myself a lot or whatever, it's just because I'm still not feeling 100%. They recently put out a restored Blu ray version of A Touch of Zen. And so that's really what I want to talk about. I mean, I don't want to talk about Touch of Zen itself so much, but I want to talk about this restored version from the Criterion Collection. One of the things that I found very interesting about it is that Feng, the actress who plays the heroine, she sponsored the restoration, and that made me number one. I really liked that she did that. I thought it was great that somebody from the original film cared that much about it to do that. But I also thought it was great because when I was watching it, and when you're watching any restored version of a movie, you never know how many creative liberties are they taking here, and so I felt like I could trust this because she was there when they made it. She must have seen it in its original form many times, and so I just felt like we're in good hands with this one. So I think it's great that she did that. She's a great actress. She's in this role especially, she really stands out. But in every movie I've seen her in, she is phenomenal, and so I think it's wonderful that she did that. And it's also good because Touch of Zen is this movie that I have like a bunch of different copies of Touch of Zen because I've been trying to find one that where the film image quality is good, and I haven't been able to. Every time I watch Touch of Zen, it looks like a grainy, faded old movie, like when you watch Nosferatu or something, and you got to kind of fill in the gaps with your imagination. That's kind of the experience that I have when I watch A Touch of Zen. Typically, with this one, I felt like I was watching it the way King Hu intended. So I felt like I was, seeing all the colors as they were supposed to be seen, and I could see all the details, incredibly well. It was a different experience than I've ever had before watching the movie. So again, I think this is this is one of the best things that I've purchased in the past like 5 or 10 years. I'm really excited that this came out, and I think it comes with all kinds of little cool extras. So I just can't say enough about this. And it also has interviews with Shu Feng. It's got interviews with other actors, and I think Ang Lee has an interview on here. I've watched some of the interviews, and they're really good. Sometimes you get these DVDs, and the interviews are total crap. They're just sometimes they're done in like a McDonald's or a cafe, and you can barely hear what people are saying, and they're not saying anything interesting, even though they're really interesting people, because it's like I don't know, an awkward moment or something. This you get a lot of the interviews. They're not just good questions. They've edited them well. The people giving them are very thoughtful, and I just I spent the after right after I watched the movie, I started watching the interviews, and there's just like one interview on here I haven't seen yet. So I think it's it's got a lot of good value, and it comes with this, which is pretty neat. I'm not really big into poster maps myself. I don't really have any place to put them, but it's got a couple of essays, one by King Hu and one by David Bordwell. And I think that this is pretty much enough to tell you what you need to know about A Touch of Zen before you watch it. It's the kind of movie that does benefit from that. You kind of want to know more about it before you see it. So I think that it's good that they provided that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie, but I don't want to get too deep into it because I've mentioned it on the blog. I've mentioned it here in the past. And so this isn't really meant to be a review of A Touch of Zen, which I'm sure you already know my feelings on. It's really meant to be about this Blu-ray and how wonderful it looks now. It's really I couldn't believe the difference watching it this way. So for those who haven't seen Touch of Zen, it is a very long movie. It's about 3 hours and 20 minutes. So it's not an easy film. It's not the kind of movie that I just recommend willy nilly to people. I think that it's not something that everybody's gonna like. It's the kind of movie that if you don't mind things that are slower paced, if you don't mind really focusing on characters and the details early on and doing it at a you know at a rate that doesn't involve a lot of combat and high speed action initially, then this will be for you. But if that stuff turns you off, it might at least be something that you have to make sure you're in the right frame of mind to watch. When I first watched Touch of Zen, I think the first time I was a little bit bored, and then the second time I started to really pay closer attention to things. I started to enjoy a lot of the little details, and then by the third time I thought it was maybe one of my favorite films. I don't normally do that kind of shift. Like sometimes I'll change my opinion a bit, but that was a pretty striking transition for me, and I think part of it was this is the kind of movie you have to sort of take it on its own terms, and you have to be willing to really like drop your expectations while you're watching it. I was constantly sitting there. I knew that there was the bamboo forest scene in the movie, and the whole time I was watching it originally, I was waiting for the bamboo forest scene. And I think by the second viewing, I was no longer waiting for that because I knew I already had seen it, so I was satisfied, and that's what allowed me to enjoy it more. So my only recommendation, if you do watch it, is try not to anticipate the action. It doesn't have fighting until about 45 minutes or so into it, maybe even an hour. I'm not 100% sure when it actually starts, but well into it. And then it kind of increasingly appears like you have fighting, and then there's some more character stuff, and then some fighting again, and then some more character stuff, and then some fighting, and then by the end it's like a 45-minute battle at the end. But it takes time to get there, and the action in it is not. It's not the wuxia that people that are maybe accustomed to newer movies are used to. So it's a little different. Even the action is a little bit slower, a little bit more rhythmic, a little bit more dance-like. So it's beautiful and it's very well choreographed, but it isn't sort of moving at a frenetic pace. It is edited in a way so that some of the moments move that way, but overall you kind of have like these long drawn out movements and then the clash of the swords. So it's got an interesting rhythm to it that you have to kind of get into. But again, I don't really want to talk too much about the movie. The one thing I will say about it is I think it pairs really well with Dragon Gate Inn. If you've never seen that, even though they're not like the characters aren't technically connected, I think Feng plays a different character in this one, but her character is strikingly similar to the character she plays in Dragon Gate Inn. So it's almost like a spiritual sequel to it. In Dragon Gate Inn, she's the daughter of an official or a general or something like that who's being chased by eunuchs from pretty much the secret police bureau of the empire. And in A Touch of Zen, she's the daughter of an official who's been executed, and now they're purging the family, and she's being chased by a bureau that's run by eunuchs. So it's this, and for all I know, they could be meant to be the same character, but I don't think so. When I look at the names, they look different to me. So unless there's some really weird transliteration thing going on, I think they're very distinctly different characters. But it's just striking to me that she plays such a similar role, and you could almost see it as a continuation of that storyline, but for the fact that she's she has a different name and comes from a different family, but it's kind of the same thing. So I don't know. That's one of the little things I've always kind of liked about it, because I like Dragon Gate Inn, and this is very different from Dragon Gate Inn. Dragon Gate Inn is a little bit more like a more typical wuxia movie. This is not. This is the movie starts and it takes place in a rural village in China, and this scholar who makes a living by painting for people, he basically opens up his little stall, and you kind of see him like meticulously, taking out his brushes and setting things up, and it's the kind of scene that if you love historical details and stuff like that, it'll give you a lot of food for thought. But other people might just be wanting to race through that moment. But again, once you sit down and let it do its thing, it's really engaging and engrossing, because it's all about the scholar and his relationship with his mother, and how she wants him to have to get a wife so that she can have so that the family line won't die off. And he's he looks brilliant when, like, it looks like he's a really smart guy, but he hasn't taken the exams or he hasn't passed them, and she's sort of berating him to, to finally pass these exams so he can get an official post. And then into this mix, the Zhu Feng character is this mysterious woman who moves next door, and eventually we learn that she's on the run from the Empire, and he goes on sort of an adventure with her, which I won't spoil for people, but I'll just say it's very unconventional. It seems like a typical plot, and then it just goes in very different directions. And I find her heroine character very compelling and a very interesting example of a strong female character in a movie like this. Other people have probably written on that and talked about it, so I won't get too into it. But I just think that it's done in this movie in a way that it just feels a little more genuine to me. And I think that Zhu Feng does a great job in that role. She comes off as strong. She comes off as I don't know, just not a typical female character. I don't quite know I don't even know why. I just know that the character in this movie is believable to me in a way that a lot of characters aren't, and I really am drawn to this character in a way that I'm not usually drawn to characters. So I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it. Maybe it's just the actress, but I've seen her in other movies, so I think it's something unique about this character. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but it's based on a Pu Song Ling short story, very, very short, about that long. I think it's called The Chivalrous Woman or something to that effect, and that's basically what the original Chinese title for A Touch of Zen was. In that story, it's much more supernatural, and it's all about like a woman who's a spirit who helps a scholar who's being beset by an evil spirit. In this one, she's a martial hero, and they're fighting off the forces of the corrupt empire. So it's a much different storyline, but it's still rooted in the same thing. And there is sort of this, even though it's about sort of the scholar and this woman and the empire and all this other stuff, at the very beginning, sort of the first half is almost like a horror movie. There's like this ghost story element to it, even though there are no ghosts. It's a little difficult to put your finger on, but it's shot the way that you would shoot a horror movie. And then by the end, it becomes about spiritual awakening. So I don't know, I just find that arc very interesting. And I don't want to spoil things for people, but when I was watching it this time, I was having a lot of questions. I was wondering if the beginning of the movie was maybe undermining the awakening, the spiritual awakening that's supposed to be happening at the end. Maybe it's more ambiguous than I originally thought it was. But I don't know. I'm not a film scholar. I'm not a Buddhist scholar, and so I'll leave that to other people. But I just found that there's a sequence in the movie where they use deception and rely on the enemy's belief in spirits and ghosts in order to throw them and to entrap them in an ambush. And I couldn't help but wonder, well, was maybe that or the monks at the end, maybe that's what's supposed to be going on, or maybe at the very least, maybe that's what the villain's supposed to be thinking is going on. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Again, I'm sure other people have written on this way better than I could, so I'll leave it at that. But I think there's a lot of stuff to chew on in this movie, and the restored version really allows you to do that. There's a very, like, the very beginning scene is famous because it opens up with like a cobweb with a spider on it, and everything I've ever read about Touch of Zen always talks about that. But whenever I watch it, you can barely see the spider web, and you can't really see it that clearly in this one either because you're not meant to. But you see it enough now. You see it. You before you're struggling. You're like, is that a spider ding? I don't know. But here at least you can see. Oh yes, there is a spider there. Yes, there is a spider web. There's so much use of like black space and stuff like that in the movie that you can imagine when the film quality declines, it just doesn't look good. So the restored version just enables you to see so much of this stuff. And I know I've rambled and I've gone off. I'll try to wrap this up fairly quickly because I think we're getting at the 15-minute mark. So that's all I have to say on this. Again, it's the original Touch of Zen came out in 1971. The 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 3 hour and 20 minute like final version I think wasn't really completed until 75 for the Cannes Film Festival. They originally did it as two halves of a movie. So there was the first half and the second, and I guess it didn't do too well. So years later, King Hu tried to put it back as the full 3 hour movie that it was supposed to be, and they get into that in some of the interviews on the commentary stuff. But yeah, so this is let's see, this is a Blu-ray. It's 4K digital, and I think it's like region one, so people in the States should be able to watch it. I believe it's also going to be available in other regions, but I'm not sure. So I do recommend it. I was thrilled with this. This is probably my favorite purchase in years now. I was very happy when this came. I was very happy when I watched it, and I'm still very happy that I have this on the shelf and I can watch it again. It's a great movie, and it's just every time I would watch it before, I would be like, it's a shame this doesn't look better, and I feel like I can now watch it without that nagging feeling in the back of my mind. So anyways, I'll be back on. Hopefully I'll be more clear headed and not running all over the place. Next video, I'm still kind of coming back to normal, so we'll see how long this takes me. But I'm going to talk about Police Story next, because I mentioned that I was going to do some Cho Yuen things, and I think I got sick and I didn't get to them. So I'm probably going to talk about Police Story 1 and 2. I might try to squeeze Police Story 3 in there, but really 1 and 2 are the Cho Yuen related ones that I want to speak about. But Police Story 3 is so great that I'll probably talk about that anyways. So anyways, I will talk to you later, and I will try to post links to the Criterion Collection website so that you can check this out if you want to. Again, I definitely recommend it. They don't send me this stuff. I bought it myself. Nobody's asked me to recommend it to people. I just think it's a great Blu-ray, and again, I really have to commend Feng for sponsoring this. I think that for me, that made a huge difference. That was like I think anytime an original actor is that involved, it really I just have a lot more trust in the product. So yeah, watch it, see it for yourself. And if there's anything I haven't addressed, just comment in the comment section. I'd be happy to try to answer anything. And if I get enough questions and things, I might do another separate video where I answer them. But for right now, just feel free to comment. And I will talk to you later.